Welcome back to Sirius XM Progress. I'm John Fugelsang. I am so excited to welcome our next guest to the show. Dr. Christian Green is a distinguished academic and advocate with a really amazing personal narrative. This man was born in a prison cell to an incarcerated mom and an unknown father, and he is an American success story, a person who's just surmounted extraordinary challenges and emerged as a real beacon of resilience and success. He is an LA County native, UCLA alum, now serving as the inaugural professor of African American Studies in West Los Angeles College. Dr. Green brings both lived experience and academic expertise to any conversation about democracy, and his impactful book from 2018, Uncovering Your Worth, From Legal Custody to UCLA, has given him quite a great platform to speak out. And I got to say, as a member of the National Black Justice Collective Good Trouble Network, he's just the person I want to talk to about all these ugly things we're hearing about the voting in my beloved Los Angeles election. Dr. Green, welcome to Sirius XM. Thanks for staying up with us.
Not a problem. Thank you so much for having me. I'm a fan of yours and the work that you have done. Absolutely.
Thank you.
So thank you.
I'm a fan of yours, and I'm also a fan of voting in Los Angeles. As someone who's been an LA County resident for much of my life, even though I'm trapped in New York a lot of the time. I mean, you've just spent your whole career obviously studying civic participation, studying race, studying public policy. Doctor, I'm so glad you're here. When you hear prominent national officials start suggesting that a major city's election was somehow illegitimate or rigged without presenting any evidence, what concerns you the most?
I think it's the evidence part, right? And so people are always talking about, the truth. The truth matters. The truth, you can't handle the truth. And the truth of the fact is that folks are lying. They're spreading misinformation and disinformation. I remember going to a specific conference, I think it was CBC, Congressional Black Caucus, and Congresswoman Jasmine was talking, Jasmine Crockett was talking about the difference between misinformation and disinformation. And it seems like this is just a tactic or a tool, a spirit of manipulation that is going across the nation, whether it's in media, in news, social media especially. And so the evidence part is the thing that I would love for us to address.
Yeah, because, I mean, obviously these influential figures are willing to lie and tell millions of people that, it was rigged with no evidence because they want to implant the narrative that our elections can't be trusted for when they lose. I mean, we've seen this play out with great violence in our recent history. And, I mean, LA is one of the most diverse cities in the world. It seems like, boy, these accusations of election fraud really emerge when diverse electorates produce outcomes that some right-wing folks don't like, right? That seems to be a pattern, sir.
Absolutely, absolutely. When we think about President Trump and his right-wing figures, Elon Musk, and how they falsely accuse the LA mayoral race, I am a huge supporter of Mayor Karen Bass. I don't care what nobody say. She's done a lot of work. I come from the foster care system, so she's done the work. And so for them to come out and, she's the first black woman mayor at that, and she was competing, and to say that it was stolen, I think that is kind of absurd. It's egregious, but it's also disappointing. We want to believe in the government. We want to believe in this idea of truth and democracy. But when you have these claims that are falsely being perpetuated out there, the claim was based on I believe it was like a 1-minute data lag or something like that. It was a 60-second computer lag. And then even Trump's own Justice Department debunked the claim, saying that the claim is false. Each candidate received votes in every update. And the fact that I want us to think about is how what is happening out here in LA, even after this primary race, is one of the most important underreported stories about voter suppression. And this is in California, where we are very progressive. I can only imagine what's in the South, Mississippi, Alabama, and X, Y, and Z.
Well, I mean, again, this is one of the most diverse cities in the nation, and it's one of the most democratic cities in the nation, and they're crying foul because this simpleton, dishonest reality show clown from 20 years ago didn't do that well in a primary in one of our most diverse and most democratic cities. So obviously, and we saw this last week with Jay Clayton going on CNBC, and essentially, even though he doesn't believe it, suggesting there might be election irregularities in California because that was how he auditioned to get a job as the director of national intelligence. And it worked. 3 days later, he spread the lie. He pushed the narrative on TV, again with no evidence, but he was rewarded with a job offer. It seems like these claims of voter fraud, again, it's always intertwined with efforts to question the political participation of black, Latino, immigrant, or any other marginalized communities.
Absolutely. It is an attack on DEI as they are trying to take that away from us. I teach African American studies, and we're constantly under attack. I have a friend in Alabama who's she goes to Auburn University, and she's talking about there's legislation in Alabama right now. Literally, if you teach what is it called, divisive language,
Divisive language.
divisive.
In other words, like things that'll make racist parents uncomfortable is divisive language, correct? Yeah.
Right, exactly, yeah. And I think about like what happened in Wilmington, North Carolina in 1898, and how when we look at the specific like this narrative and how they're shaping it, the election rigging narrative, and how like during the 1898 Wilmington coup, white supremacist leaders falsely claimed that black political participation and interracial political coalitions were corrupting elections. Then you go to the 2020 elections, Atlanta, you go to Philadelphia, you go to Detroit, Michigan, and how these became like central focuses of fraud allegations. But where's the evidence? Where's the evidence?
And again, urban districts in Arizona and Pennsylvania. That was the basis for that entire act of fraud, trying to get the vice president to sleek false electors. I mean, the connections are there. They literally carried a Confederate flag into the Capitol that day because they were trying to take the vote away from minority districts in those two states. And I mean, for so much of our country's history, black Americans have had to fight just for the right to vote. There really is a connection between these past efforts to suppress the vote and these modern efforts. The pattern is there. But how has the language changed? I know a lot of the underlying suspicions remain similar, but how has the language evolved in this sort of casting mistrust?
Yeah, for sure. So to provide that, I'll look at the historical context. You know, black Americans were told literacy tests were necessary. Black Americans were told poll taxes were necessary. Yeah. We were told that grandfather clauses were necessary. You know, and every generation has heard some type of version of, you know, we're not trying to stop anyone from voting. We're just trying to secure the system. And for me, I think the language has evolved around, you know, the narrative of the mistrust, you can't trust what's going on over there, especially around the mail-in ballots. For some reason, I guess they can't trust the mail-in ballots, and especially on social media as well. So there's so many things around language and narratives that is being pushed on that side where it's kind of scary. Not even scary, it's just disheartening in a way.
Well, yeah, I mean, we learn about literacy tests and poll taxes, but I mean, you know, there's never been an election in our country where the outcome was swayed by voter impersonation. And isn't voter impersonation, which is not a problem in any state, the sole reason for these voter ID laws? I mean, they're literally making it harder for people to exercise their right based on problems that aren't problems, as we're seeing now with the SAVE Act being used to try to take the vote away from women voters in this country.
Absolutely. I saw an article, and they were talking about in the SAVE Act debate about how like more than 21 million American citizens don't have proof of citizenship readily available. I believe it was in North Carolina's 2016 election, how legal non-citizen voting represented approximately 0.0003 of the ballots cast. Then you have, I believe it was Georgia, it was like 8.2 million registered voters in Georgia, found only 20 potential non-citizens. But because our folks are already non-citizens, why do you think that they're going to go and try to go to jail willingly? You know, like
exactly. You know? They want to get caught, right? They want to get that's the whole plan. That's the whole plan, Doctor. You sneak into this country and you live, you know, below the margins, and you live on the side, and then the goal is you illegally register to vote and then go vote because you want to get caught. That's their whole argument. And to this day, they say that 3 million undocumented people voted in this country in 2016. Like, that's how they say Hillary Clinton won the popular vote, because 3 million undocumenteds wanted to get nabbed. It boggles the mind.
Yeah, it does. It does. When we really need to look at the communities that are most likely to be impacted, which are our seniors, our rural voters, our low-income Americans, married women who change their names, our LGBTQ brothers and sisters, our trans community, and even our young voters and students. You know, when a voting policy creates like obstacles that fall unevenly across different communities, we have a responsibility to ask, you know, who is being left out? And that is our Good Trouble Network, and that is our MBJC folks, that is our trans communities. And it really sucks because, you know, we we don't look at the humanity of people. And this is where I pray and hope over the next 2 years and in November of this year, that folks go to the poll and really, look at what can really help us. I believe that was John Lewis that said that the vote is sacred. Our vote is sacred. And if we can really hold on to that, we can really make some change. And I just think that that's where we need to be headed towards.
Let me ask you about this. Today, as you know, a single social media post from a certain billionaire or political leader can reach tens of millions of people instantly, and misinformation is more powerful than ever. I mean, Fox News had to pay $750 million for spreading this lie so many times, and they never got busted for lies about Obama's birth certificate or WMDs in Iraq. It's so easy because we know there's no guardrails, there's no penalty for spreading lies. I mean, the Haitians and the Pets, right? How can local election officials begin to compete with national political narratives that are dominating social media? How do you push back on this?
Yeah, for sure. Huge shout out to the Obama Chicago. What's happening today. I want to, I know what a good day over there, presidential to the real president. I will say that on the local level, this is what kind of like what National Black Justice Collective has been doing, coalition, around us, just like being on the ground and coalition building. So one is around education and voter empowerment. I think that that's the way we can do that in tapping into grassroots, local community organizations such as what I do, educating on the community college level, educating our high schools, educating with families, coalition building. We do a specific thing called Equity Week in D.C. We just had it last week. Shout out to all the folks that came out, where we take folks, students, our trans folks, and take them to the Capitol and show them the process of what it means to go talk to your congressional representative or go talk to your senator and whatnot. But really bringing it and making, I hate to say it like this, but making it sexy, right? Making voting sexy, making education sexy, and bringing folks to just the basic human right of what it means to be able to go into those spaces.
Amen. I mean, Doctor, how do you describe the Save America Act? I mean, they're calling it an election integrity measure, and the people, everyone's saying election integrity supports pardoning guys who beat cops on the Capitol steps for a lie. Have you noticed that? These integrity, Donald Trump fans really care a lot about integrity when it comes to non-white people voting. I mean, what to you are the central issues driving this debate? What's going to happen? What challenges could happen to citizens who don't have immediate access to their birth certificate or their passport?
I'm I'm a tenure track professor right now, and I don't even know where my birth certificate is. So thank God I have my passport, right? But if I was to try to find it, I wouldn't know where it is. And that is a problem for a lot of our folks. And that's where we can tap into, our Congress folks or our senators is trying to be preventive and get folks those birth certificates, but that shouldn't be the case. I think that narrative, that push, that this idea that that you have to show your ID. I know I just went to go vote a couple of weeks ago. They didn't ask for me for an ID. They took my ballot and kept it moving. But for folks, they may not have that, and I think that is. I hate to say it like that, but I think it's a crock of. Can I cuss on here? I can't cuss.
It's encouraged, sir. It's encouraged here.
It is. It's a bunch of bullshit. I think that we have to protect each other. It is our duty to fight. It's our duty to win. It's our duty to love and protect one another, as Sada Shakur said, and that includes our Black, our Indigenous, and those that are not as what they would say as not non-citizens or illegals or whatnot, our brown and brother sisters. And I think that this is where we have to stand up and do the work around that.
Amen. Well, this brings us back to Jay Clayton, the unqualified guy that, went and lied about election fraud in California to get himself offered a job running national intelligence. Donald Trump at 3:54 in the morning the other day decided, no, I don't think so anymore, and he pulls Jay Clayton off of that. And now it's going to all be tied to essentially blackmailing his own party in the Senate to pass the SAVE Act. And you know this. It's not just Democrats opposing this. It's never making it through the Senate. Several Republican senators have already, Murkowski, Collins, McConnell, Tom Tillis, they've all broken with the president. What does that suggest to you, sir, about concerns inside the Republican Party?
Well, I think it's a good sign. I hope they continue to operate in that vein. Vein and Link, keep doing what y'all doing. And I think that that's actually a good way of looking at it. Y'all keep messing each other up. Y'all keep doing what y'all got to do. But the Democrats have to come out swinging after this is, November election comes up and we take some of the seats or whatnot. But I think with the Republican Party, let them go and do whatever y'all going to do. Our fight is trying to be a little bit more preventive instead of reactionary is what I'm thinking. And we also need to have a little bit more of not an attitude, but just like have a little bit more of a presence. At least I was a DNC delegate. I served as a president of a Democratic club out here. I served on Black Los Angeles Young Dems as well as Stonewall. So I've been a part of the Democratic Party. So I know California we're pretty strong. But how do we empower our other communities across our rural and our southern states and where they are being attacked? And that is where I think we need to be centering our work at. You saw what was going on in Georgia, and so
Georgia back down, South Carolina back down for this midterms. Both those states back down from doing this.
Yeah. And so, let them keep going and do what they're doing. Continue fighting against each other.
Since the gutting of the Voting Rights Act, we've seen what they've done. Tennessee's 40% black. They're trying to make sure that it's going to be 9 white Republicans representing the entire state in the House. Same with Alabama. Do you think, Doctor, that they may have overshot the mark? It seems like they're trying to discourage voting and intimidate voters and make people not believe that it has any point. I kind of feel like they're pissing a lot of people off, and they might have an incredible Democratic backlash for this. What do you think? I just feel like people are going to be angry, and they're going to be making sure early that they're registered and ready.
I pray that is the case of us seeing, and maybe that's where different content creators, different social media people, where are the celebrities at? Where are the sports folks? People need to be speaking out a little bit more and calling it what it is. I pray that the New York Knicks do not show up to the White House because they invited them. How do we get the folks that are, because it's a huge social media thing. Everyone loves their phone, and that's one angle, but I also know that the media portrays a certain thing. Our news, I wake up and watch the news every morning, different articles, and so I do that, hope that it is I don't want to call it a backlash, but I want to hopefully just call it like a movement, that this happens in South Carolina and Georgia, that folks see the urgency and feel the urgency, because at the end of the day, folks' lives are at stake. Folks will die. Folks will lose their lives. Folks will lose their homes and jobs. And that is something that we all should be protecting and pushing towards and loving and showing that grace towards one another through the vote and through showing up.
Amen. I think that's extremely spiritual. These requirements, again, look at it. It disproportionately affects who? Yes, minority voters, but elderly voters, rural voters, low-income voters, married women whose legal names have changed, and, of course, college students who might not have a state ID yet, especially if they go to college in a city where there's public transportation and they don't need a license. They know what they're trying to do in making it harder for certain people to vote. You know this. There's districts in this country where you can't vote with a college ID, but you can with an NRA ID.
Yeah. And it really sucks because our students, we always talking about our youth and young adults. I teach community college level, and I have my intern high school students. I was able to register 45 young adults within 30 minutes.
No way. You're my hero.
And that was because they just didn't have access to it, or they didn't want to, or they didn't know about it, right? But it's also being able to present it to them and show them, okay, this is one of the processes of being a little bit more civically engaged. But also while I'm in the classes and I'm asking them, is it true that young people don't care? Some of them are like, I really don't, I'm looking for a job. I need to make money. I need to, And so how do we bring that back into the classroom or even into the churches or on the streets, taking it to the neighborhoods? It's different ways and different angles that we have to protect our young adults and let them know, because they are one of the biggest voting bases that is out here that can really change if they really look.
How do you do it? Because I always make sure to tell people, you know what? The racists, the white supremacists, the fascists, the people who hate women, they're all hoping you stay home. The douchebags in this country who have wrecked our economy, the people who lied you into a war in Iraq and lied you into Donald, they want you to stay home. How do you convey the message to people? Because you can't always make it sexy.
Yeah, agreed. So you have to have the historical context, right? So we talked about the literacy text. We talked about the white supremacy, of course. We also talk about the Black Panther movement. I think we also need to talk about how how not just the historical context or the racial concept, but also the economics and how this will affect them. Because at the end of the day, we do live in a capitalist society. Folks love money. They want to make money. I always ask them, who wants to be a millionaire? And everyone hands raise up, right? But how do we get them to understand, in order for that, everything is centered around politics. You know, we look at the social and the economics, but it also comes through the political realm too. And it's just like, I teach 16 weeks. So from week 1 to week 16, by time week 14 hits, week 12, I usually got them. But also, you know, it is a process. It's a process in there, and you know, it's one by one soul at a time, one student at a time, one mind at a time, and that's how I go into it.
Man, you're making me proud to be an American. Dr. Christian Green is an African-American Studies professor at West LA College. He is also a member of the National Black Justice Collective Good Trouble Network. Sir, I hope you'll come back anytime as the election goes forward. What is the best way for our listeners to keep in touch with you and to follow your work?
Absolutely. Shout out to you and the work that you've done. I love the work around church, faith. I come from a faith world, and so being able to challenge that and bring the truth, as Jesus was the truth and the way and the life. Follow me.
No, I really want you to come back. Let's come back and talk about that sometime. Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm on Instagram, Christian423, and then, you know, email me or whatever on West LA. So, yeah, greencd@wlac.edu. Thank you so much.
What a pleasure. Come back and see us again anytime. It's going to be a crazy election year. Thank you, Dr.